You know, the man in the red suit with that big, booming laugh and a sack full of presents? He's one of the most recognizable figures in the entire world. But he wasn't always the jolly toy maker from the North Pole. So in this explainer, we're going to peel back those layers of festive folklore and uncover the really surprising historical journey of Santa Claus.
We all know this image, don't we? Of course. But have you ever stopped to wonder how a 4th century Christian bishop from the warm Mediterranean somehow became a magical toy maker living at the frigid North Pole? It's a pretty remarkable transformation, so let's trace that path together.
Right. Our story starts not in some snowy wonderland, but actually in the very warm climate of ancient Anatolia. This is where we meet the man who would become the historical anchor for the entire legend.
The original figure was Saint Nicholas of Myra. And what's so important to remember here is that he was a real historical person, a bishop who lived and preached almost 1,700 years ago in what is now modern-day Turkey.
You see, Nicholas wasn't known for a sleigh or reindeer. He was known for something far more grounded, his extraordinary generosity. The stories that first built his reputation were all about his acts of charity, especially his habit of secretly helping the poor and those in need. These deeds, well, they became the very foundation of his legend.
So how on earth do we get from a 4th century saint to the Santa we know today? Well, you can see the key stages right here. It all starts with a historical figure. Then, centuries later, his legend travels with Dutch settlers to the New World. And it's there, really, in the 19th and 20th centuries that art and media finish the job.
As stories of St. Nicholas spread across Europe, they were adapted and changed by all sorts of different cultures. But one of the most influential of these adaptations took place in the Netherlands, and that marks the next major stage in our story.
In the Dutch tradition, Saint Nicholas became Sinterklaas. You can almost hear the direct link in the name, can't you? From Sint Nicolaas. This new figure kept the bishop's connection to gift-giving, but he also started to pick up his own unique folklore.
And this is the really crucial moment. When Dutch immigrants settled in North America, they brought their Sinterklaas traditions with them. This act of cultural migration planted the seed of the legend in brand new soil, where it would soon grow into something completely different.
Okay, so this next phase is where the character we all recognize today really starts to take shape. Back in 19th century America, literature and art began to completely reinvent the Dutch Sinterklaas, creating a distinctively American version.
The changes during this time were very specific and creative. As American culture became more focused on the family, influential poems and drawings gave him his sleigh and reindeer, they set his arrival on Christmas Eve, and they cemented his role as a bringer of gifts to all good children, which, you'll notice, is a bit of a shift from his origin of just helping the needy.
The final touch, of course, came with the rise of mass media. Throughout the 20th century, very powerful advertising campaigns and films solidified that image of the jolly man with the full white beard, dressed head to toe in that now iconic red suit. This became the global standard we all know.
Putting them side by side like this really highlights the journey. It's a clear shift from a 4th century Turkish bishop in robes helping the poor to a 20th century figure from the North Pole in a red suit delivering gifts. The transformation is complete, and it's really quite profound. So what's the main takeaway from all of this? Well, the modern Santa Claus isn't the product of just one story. He's actually a unique and fascinating combination of historical fact, evolving folklore, and some very powerful cultural creativity.
And it's interesting because even though his appearance and his backstory have changed so dramatically, the core essence of his character has, in many ways, remained. He still embodies that original spirit of generosity and joy that defined Saint Nicholas of Myra all those centuries ago.
So what this all comes down to is pretty clear. The story of Santa Claus is a perfect case study in how legends evolve. It shows us how a real historical figure can be layered with folklore, art, and commerce over hundreds of years to become a global cultural icon.
It leaves us with a final, fascinating thought. The evolution of Santa Claus really demonstrates our deep, enduring need to create and share stories. And it does make you wonder, doesn't it? As we look at our own modern culture, which of our popular figures or our stories or ideas are on a similar journey to becoming the enduring legends of the future?